Some brands offer you low finance, or cashback, or servicing.
Renault don't do ors. We do ands. The Renault Kadjar with 1.91% APR and €1,000 cashback and 3 years servicing, saving you thousands. Renault, the brand with the ands. Visit your local Renault dealer. Finance is made under a hire purchase agreement. Terms and conditions apply. Deposit required. Subject to lending criteria. See Renault.ie.
This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
Previously on Coffee with Kenobi.
And their free tickets, they're distributed on a first-come, first-served basis on Fridays at 10:30 a.m. I mean, seriously, I was ready to drive this weekend to Atlanta, which for me is about 9 hours. Dude, this is the dream. I've always wanted to sit in the cockpit of the Falcon.
This is Vanessa Marshall, Harrison Dula from Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
That Millennium Falcon experience, that has really gotten a lot of mileage out of fandom because it's what a cool thing. And that's, of course, what we're going to talk about a lot on this show, as well as a bunch of other things. Hello, everybody. Welcome and hello. It's Coffee with Kenobi. You're here on show number 122. We're your spoiler-free place for Star Wars discussion, analysis, and rhetoric. I'm your host, Dan Z, drinking One Nation Coffee, of course, which, as you know, is the official coffee of Coffee with Kenobi. And I'm drinking it out of a black and orange Rancho Obi-Wan coffee mug. Thank you so much for joining me today as we sit back and have some Star Wars conversation. We hope to make you think about the mythology of Star Wars in a whole new way and maybe laugh a little bit in the process. On today's show, we've got BJ Smith and Meghan Camp, who are great Star Wars fans and longtime friends of Coffee with Kenobi. They're going to join us and talk about the Millennium Falcon traveling exhibit, which Meghan reviewed for our website. Tom's back to bring us some news, and I share my thoughts on 5 years of CWK and a huge announcement at the end of the show you are not going to want to miss. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite coffee mug, and let's have some coffee with Kenobi.
And now, let's see what's brewing in the Star Wars universe this week.
I hope everybody had an awesome May the 4th celebration, and thank you for the feedback on our last show. It was great to have Corey and Jat on. It's always great to have the two of them on. They're both big parts of the show. Obviously, Jad is the inspiration, and Corey is the guy who helped get this off the ground. And now we're on 5 years of the show. It's really wonderful. It's just very, very exciting. On May the 4th, also on StarWars.com, I had an article up where I debated the best viewing order for the Star Wars films. Now, in all actuality, and I did write this in the article, I prefer to watch them chronologically the way they're released. But if you're showing them from an analytical perspective, especially to adults or older students or children who like to analyze and process things in a different way from the conventional, the proposal I put on stars.com is unique. And I think sort of the rationale behind my thought where you put Rogue One and what that does for Darth Vader's story, I think it'd be interesting for you to weigh in and let me know what you think about that. There's a lot of different ways to watch these films. Anyway, is fun, but it's cool to kind of reflect on that. And I've always believed that writing is a good way to get your thoughts out on paper and learn things in ways you didn't even realize that you could. Also, on our Patreon show this week, we talked about what era of Star Wars we'd most like to see explored. We talked about Star Wars names, and then we discussed trailer reaction videos, and I kind of got a little excited about that because I have very strong feelings about these reaction videos that you can hear more about if you listen to our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon show, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And as I said, we have a major announcement in the end of the show. It's pretty phenomenal. I'm very excited about it. So please don't fast forward all the way to the end, of course, because I want you to hear Meghan and BJ talk, and Tom has a great news segment. There's a lot going on, but let's just not waste any more time. Let's just jump right into the show.
So who talks first? You talk first? I talk first.
Joining us today for a cup of coffee are two awesome Star Wars fans, and I'm very excited to finally get the chance to talk with them on Coffee with Kenobi. First up, we have BJ Smith.
Hello, Dan. Nice to be with you.
Nice to have you on the show, my friend. And also on the program tonight is Meghan Camp.
Hi, great to be with you, Dan.
Thank you so much. And Meghan, you will recognize her name because of something we're going to talk about later. Those of you who look at our website, of course, coffeewithkenobi.com, know that Meghan got to, well, we're just going to say it. She got to pilot the Millennium Falcon. So we're definitely going to get back to that. That's not something you can overlook. I mean, that's pretty amazing. So before we get to that, though, Forces of Destiny continues to surprise us with new shows. And isn't it great? On most Star Wars things, you find out, oh, there's an announcement, then you have to wait 6 months, a year, maybe even 2 years. But for Forces of Destiny, it's like, oh, by the way, they're coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
Amazing, right? So there were 6 episodes, I believe, that came out. And they're all considered part of season 2. And I'm assuming you both have seen them?
Yes. Yeah, I binged it with the kids.
I've compiled quite a bit
It's
of
fun, right?
notes.
My kids love them, especially my little one. He just thinks, damn, that is Star Wars, right? That is authentic Star Wars. So the first 3 episodes were called Chopper and Friends, with some Ewoks teaming up with Chopper, which is, the matchup we never thought we wanted, but now we know that we absolutely need.
And good ghost
and
action, too.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had Monster Misunderstanding, which had Padme in the time of Clone Wars. Then we had Art History, which was a fun one between Sabine and her brother, Tristan, which I really, as an English speaker, I love that it's named Tristan. And then the other episodes, let me see if I can get the link to work here. Well, first of all, before I get to the other ones, what did you think of the first couple? Or the ones I just mentioned?
Megan, you can go.
Okay. I loved all of the episodes, and all 3 of them I thought were fantastic that you just mentioned. I think what stood out the most to me of the 3 was the art history one with Sabine and her brother. And I love that they're tying in the importance of history and statues, and it's not just a statue, right? It's symbolic of a greater meaning to the Mandalorian people and what the Jedi mean to them, and that's just really cool how they tied all that in.
It was neat how
very culturally heavy too. I'm sorry, BJ, go ahead.
No, I was just saying that it was neat, like the way they did sort of tie it in. It sort of references an older Vizsla, like from the Rebels episode, and the way they had the sort of watchtower built around the statue was sort of interesting, because I guess it's a good high point for strategy, but like the way that they could then dismantle it was just really cool to see them in action like that.
All right, I agree. And the one, what you mentioned, BJ, that Chopper and Friends, a lot of cool stuff with the ghost. This was a fascinating episode because listeners of the show know, at first I just didn't understand why people love Chopper, but now I think he's one of my favorites just because he's very charming, and his attitude and temperament are just so unique in an astromech, and plus his design is still very refreshing and also unique. And now he teams up with the Ewoks, and with this episode, in addition to Battlefront 2 and that new release with the Ewok level, Ewoks have kind of reinvented themselves, and they're much more fearsome, I think, than maybe some of us remembered from when we were younger.
Yeah,
I absolutely love this one.
Yeah, it's been an interesting turn seeing how Ewoks have been sort of perceived by the masses. I was born like a week before the original episode 4 came out, so I've been with Star Wars since the original trilogy, and so I remember when I was a kid and going to Return of the Jedi, and like everyone loved the Ewoks then. It wasn't until later on that they were like, "Oh, they're just silly teddy bears, and how would they do that?" And as fans got a little older, like then they had issues with them, and so it's sort of interesting seeing them kind of reinvent them now in ways to bring them back in with Battlefront 2, which I don't have a PS4 or Xbox One, and almost bought one just for that, but haven't pulled that trigger yet. I haven't quite made that investment yet. It's interesting that even sort of seeing them tie them in with this one, with the Forces of Destiny, and then the one that we'll probably come to later, the Traps and Tribulations with Luke and Leia, which was pretty impressive. So it's neat seeing them portrayed in different ways.
The only one I left out of this batch was Porgs. Now, and I thought it was adorable. My son loves pork so much, which automatically makes me love it. And BJ, I'm sure you have similar reactions as well. But at first I was a little bit confused by what exactly was going on. And then once I realized that they thought the interior of a piece of the Falcon was something they could use for nesting purposes, I was just instantly charmed. This was fun. I love all these things on Ashto with Chewie, because we tend to forget that he was there just kind of, we thought he was doing not much of anything, but he he was bonding. He was absolutely bonding with nature.
Definitely. Yeah, it was interesting to see that because when I first saw it, I was like, are they trying to eat the wires? Like, what's that all about? And then, so it's sort of interesting seeing it tied back together. And I guess as he, had to make use of his time while waiting on Ray and everybody else. So,
Megan, have you read, or either of you read the book Chewie and the Porgs?
Yes, it is so cute.
Isn't it the best?
It is so cute. I don't have kids, but I do babysit quite frequently. And there are kids at my church that are obsessed with Porgs and Chewie. And we got that book and sat down to read it. And they were just captivated and just giggling. It's so cute. So if you have kids, or you don't, get that book. It's so cute.
Yeah, I almost bought the book myself, wanting to read it myself, sort of being fully willing to blame it on, I'm getting this one for the kids. And of course I'd share it with them, but yeah, I was interested. So I haven't gotten that one yet, but I certainly thought about it. So I'm glad to hear that it's
it's a must. You should walk in, my friend, with no shame and just pride in your heart, because it's a very charming book. And it's actually got some really nice animation as well.
Oh, good.
I should say art, not animation, because it's not actually moving. But now the last three, we have the Perilous Pursuit, which is with Finn and Ray, and I'm just sort of trying to figure out where that actually is in the movie. I know it's from a deleted scene, but because of this, we know, these are canon, these are canonical, so I guess I'm not sure where this fits in. I'll have to ask around about that. Then we have Trials and Tribulations with Luke, post destruction of the Death Star on Endor with the Ewoks, and a surprising guest that I didn't think would ever be a part of canon. And then I think the most powerful one was between Ahsoka and Ezra, called A Disarming Lesson. So we only have a few minutes left in this segment, but so I'm just going to say the Perilous Pursuit, I thought was just, it was meh. It didn't really do anything for me. I appreciate that they're putting these two in there, and I love these actors, of course, but these characters are just too important to just squander on things that don't advance anything plot-wise. But I'm pretty sure it's because episodes 7, 8, and 9 haven't come out yet, so I have to be very, very careful with them. I'd rather talk about the other two, but I'll let you start first, Megan. Which one would you like to talk about?
I really loved Traps and Tribulations. I thought that was so fun. I was like, the twins together on screen, more content about them together. Great. Luke was in my favorite outfit of all of that saga. Mm-hmm. And Leia had the lightsaber, and that was so exciting to me. And I loved how they got together and got to save the day together. That was really great. I loved it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like, it's funny because Megan, until you verbalized it like that, I didn't realize that's one of the things that I appreciated about it. But seeing the two of them together like that, which we didn't get a ton of, and the way they interact and work together, and then just at the very end, like just Leia holding a lightsaber is awesome.
And it was kind of fun, a little tricky, I guess, because you consider what Luke had just gone through. He seemed very, very at peace and relaxed. You'd never know he'd just been through one of the most traumatic times in his life.
Yeah,
I think that might show
Leia too.
Purpose. Yeah, Leia as well. Yeah, of course. But I guess I was thinking more of him being electrocuted by the Emperor.
Yeah. I'm surprised that make his hair
that
stay.
little manner of things.
True.
But the Gorax shows up, and this was a monster from the infamous Ewok movies, which are not is thought of in quite the way that the holiday special is, but they're probably in that same vicinity.
Yeah, sort of on the verge.
I've seen them both once, and that once was enough.
Yeah, I saw him as a kid, and I don't remember him since. And I completely forgot about that character, like the Gorax. So I was like, that's interesting. And then I heard somebody else mention it, and I was like, oh yeah, that is vaguely familiar.
It was neat that they had him in there. It was quite a fearsome opponent. You wonder where they were during the Empire, but maybe the Empire scared them away, and then they were able to just kind of come back and let life just sort of find its way again, which I love. Now, let's talk about A Disarming Lesson really quickly. Ezra and Ahsoka have this duel, and Ezra is in a very unique place because he's very excited about his lightsaber. And shortly after he makes his original one, after he encounters Yoda in the Jedi Temple. And they're on Lothal. And then Ahsoka takes almost like umbrage with him in a somewhat playful and also conversely serious way. And she says, oh, really? Well, how good are you without your lightsaber? Is that what you need? So she starts to attack him. And so my son is watching this with me. And he says, Daddy, why is she doing that? Why is she trying to get him? And I said, she's trying to teach him a lesson. Now, I was trying to kind of hard to teach this abstract concept to a 4-year-old, but I think we made some progress on it in some way. But it was very moving to me to show Ahsoka and the kind of character that she is. My goodness, if the fact that she's still around and we know that there's more Ahsoka stories to be told, she is just a very, very incredible presence. I mean, she is just unbelievable. And if anything, she gives a little bit of credence to the good that was in Anakin, because look at her. I mean, and she was her before Anakin, but obviously there's a connection here between Master and Padawan. But what a tremendous episode. BJ, what stood out for you about this one?
Oh, I mean, I loved it. It was great. Like any Ahsoka is wonderful. Like I love having her back and still like being in episodes, and for her to still be coming out more is wonderful to see. And it's sort of interesting because, you know, with Infinity War just coming out and being an amazing movie, it reminds me a little bit of like in Spider-Man Homecoming, where Tony Stark's takes Spider-Man's suit back, and he's like, well, and Spider-Man's like, well, I'm nothing without the suit, and he's like, well, if that's the case, then you don't deserve it. It's kind of like this, you know, Ezra's so confident, like, with that lightsaber in his hand, but you take that away, he needs to have confidence in himself without that. So it's sort of a good teaching point from her. So it's just neat seeing that. And also, like, you know, I'm sure it was probably a very different style than Kanan's. And so it's good to learn from different teachers and have different perspectives. And so it might be tough for somebody like Ezra when really all he has is Kanan. You know, even with the Clone Wars series, you would see them sometimes interacting with other Jedi and whatnot, so they get different perspectives. So it's I thought it was a great lesson for him.
Megan, what do you think this shows us about Ahsoka? Because I think it shows us a somewhat different side of her.
Yeah, I love this teacher side of her. Have either of you read her book, her Kanan book?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
I have.
Yes, I finished it earlier this year, and I really loved it. And I thought that this particular episode kind of brings that story full circle for me. I saw how she, in the book, and not to spoil it for anyone, but she does get to mentor some people in the book, and that kind of comes full circle. And you can really see the tie-in with the Clone Wars series and what she's learned from Anakin, and how she's learned how he's taught her, and how he challenged her, and how she kind of brings that into teaching Ezra. And I just love this whole episode. I think it's so great, and great episode for Ahsoka.
It is a great episode for Ahsoka, and I like how Ezra is just, I mean, he's in awe of the lesson, and he's a little bit confused, but he shows his willingness to be humble, and his willingness to be able to try to come back from pride, really. And the way she teaches it to him, I thought was really wonderful. Like, there's a great image on our website, because Lisa, of course, did a great review of these Forces of Destiny episodes. And the look on her face against Ezra, where he's like, my crystal's over there, what are you doing? It's really fantastic. I hope that we get to see more of these two together, and hopefully it's a harbinger of, you know, what's to come between the two of them, as we know if we've seen the finale of Rebels. But this is a good place to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk to Megan about her experiences on the Millennium Falcon. You heard me right, ladies and gentlemen, on the Millennium Falcon. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Coffee with Kenobi.
Let's talk a little bit about our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page, but before I do that, I have to thank our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon contributors like Ben Elkington, Terry Lee, Dennis Keithley, Chris Gavarka, Christo Hading, Aaron Harris, Angela Sauce, Mediocre Jedi, Thea Selby, Jeff Ellis, Brad Tracy, Daz Davies, Tyler Wiggins, Christian Dale, Jason Hall, Brian McKinney, Connie Shee, Mike Audette, Jared Cantor, BJ Smith, Eric Struthers, Nick Deco, and Mark Suter. Coffee with Kenobi is so fortunate to have you as Patreon contributors. And I think it's a pretty good deal because there's just a lot of things that we try to put into the show. And on Patreon, we have the Lens feature, which is a behind-the-scenes look at Coffee with Kenobi. And by the way, we've been talking about the fact that at the end of the show there's going to be a huge announcement. If you're a Patreon contributor, you already know because I told you earlier today on Lens. So you get over 24 hours sometimes of breaking news. And this is probably some of the biggest news we've ever had. And Lens people got to see that. And what Lens is, if you download the Patreon app and you're a contributor, it's like Snapchat or Insta Story where I get to talk to you or show you pictures or videos of different things going on. And then it disappears after 24 hours. But it's fun. And I typically, if there's something important that I think is important, I will make a post on our Patreon page and say, hey, check out Lens because something is coming this way, or here's the guest we're going to have, or what do you think about this topic? So it's something that I think is interactive as well. And it starts at for $5 a month. You get recognition at the start of the show, and you get to receive a follow from us on Twitter. But the $5 mark is special for another reason, and that's because you get to have a weekly Coffee with Kenobi Patreon exclusive show hosted by myself, Tom Gross, and Corey Clubb, who are all, of course, very integral to Coffee with Kenobi and our success and what we've had over time. And they're fun. They're not scripted. They're just us off the cuff talking about Star Wars, about geek culture, about our personal lives, just all over the place. And they're very fun. You never know what we're going to say because we never know what we're going to say. I think that makes for a much more enriching show. And for $5 a month, you get to hear it. Plus, you get to hear all the back shows. And at the time of this recording, there should be 5 shows out there for you to listen to. And we're going to keep putting them out every Sunday. So just $5 a month, you're going to get all of them. $10 a month, you get access to our Discord page. It's a message board. There's also ways to get coffee mugs, t-shirts, even both. And you could even host the show with me up to 4 times in 1 month. Exclusive shows are released every Sunday, so please feel free to check it out and see what you think. I'd love to have your feedback. I'd love to have you as a Coffee with Kenobi Patreon contributor. Thank you so much for all you do. None of this is possible without you. Han Solo, Chewbacca, and Lando Calrissian are back in the upcoming Solo: A Star Wars Story. Collect your own piece of the Star Wars galaxy in the Star Wars Card Trader app by Topps. Download free now in the App Store, Google Play, and Amazon App Stores. One Nation Coffee is the official brew of Coffee with Kenobi. 4 lifelong friends have this idea that grew into some of the best coffee you're ever going to have. It smells amazing and tastes even better. Be sure to check out www.onenationcoffee.com to get your morning started off the right way and to learn more about them and how they seek to support traditional American values upheld by members of the active duty military, veterans, and first responders. In fact, they are owned by veterans and members of law enforcement. Be sure to go to www.onenationcoffee.com to order the official brew of Coffee with Kenobi today. We are back, and as promised, Meghan, it was the real bonus for Coffee with Kenobi because Meghan is in the area, lives in the area where the Falcon was going to be for this traveling exhibit that we talked about on show 121. And she was very excited, and she's always been a great person to promote Coffee with Kenobi, as has BJ. And she said she was going to be there, and I thought, maybe she'll want to do a review. And fortunately for us, you were very excited to do so, and it turned out wonderfully. Tell us about this entire experience.
Sure. It was, first of all, amazing. I got the Twitter alert that Star Wars, guess what? We're going to be bringing the Falcon to be in. And I was like, oh my gosh, how do you do this? I've got to find out. So, of course, I immediately am like, okay, StarWars.com, how do I get on? Like, what do I do? How do I get on the Millennium Falcon? And I saw it listed. It's like, and I read it word for word, like it's only going to be in 4 cities. And I was like, oh man, nothing ever comes to where I live. I'm not going to be able to see it. This is so disappointing. I guess I'm going to have to look to things like Coffee with Kenobi and reviews from guest posters to just see what it's like. And I get down to the bottom where they've grouped the 4 cities together, and I'm reading frantically, and I see, Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta Braves Park. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go. So follows. I'm frantically texting my roommate, who also has been just ensconced with Star Wars her whole life. More obsessed with the Millennium Falcon than me. Her dad, she her dad creates like airplanes and stuff for an engineering company. So like this runs in her blood. And we were like, okay, we've got to go. We've got to go. We have to go to the ball game because I love baseball, big Braves fan. And the 501st are going to be there for May 4th. So like we're going. And I am quite a planner. And I love to make sure that I'm paying attention to how do you get to do something. I want to follow all the rules to make sure I'm getting the full experience. And so I stalked the Star Wars website for weeks. Like, do I need a ticket? What kind of ticket do I get? How early do I need to be there?
Yeah, how does that work? Because I know the tickets are free, but how do you get them?
Exactly. So I waited and I saw on the post they updated it every week. So for those of you waiting for the next two cities, when right before they come to your city, it should be around the Thursday, they'll post where you can go and like when to get the timed entry tickets. In Atlanta, it was 10 o'clock in the morning at the Atlanta Braves Park. And you could get timed entry tickets from 10:30 all the way to 5 that night for the entire weekend. They were there for 3 days. It may work differently in other cities, but just to let you know, if you're also stalking the Star Wars website, just look a couple of days before they're going to be in your city. It should post. So anyways, we went to the game the night before. It was spectacular. If you have not been to a Star Wars baseball themed night for your local team, I strongly encourage you going. Even if you don't like baseball, it's an experience. It's great.
And they've got a new stadium, right? Down there?
Yes. The Atlanta Braves have a new stadium called SunTrust Park.
It's beautiful park.
It is beautiful, and
it's not Wrigley Field, but it's nice.
I love Wrigley Field, by the way. It's great. Yes, but it's a new park and it was all shiny and new. But we went to the game and that was a great experience, and got up the next morning and got there so early that we beat everyone there.
Wow.
We did. We were the first in line for timed entry tickets to the Millennium Falcon. And
so when you got the timed entry tickets, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when you got the timed entry tickets, was there a long line just to get them? Or was there any kind of a consternation that you thought, oh, what if we don't get any of these? Or was it very, very clean and simple?
There was a line, and it was clean and simple to get the tickets. But we were very nervous about making sure, are we going to get the time that we want for the timed entry? Because you can pick any time of the day. We wanted to get the earliest and get the best experience early on. But we had no problems at all. And all of the staff, not only at the park, because a lot of the Atlanta Braves staff were helping to staff the event, but the Star Wars staff there were incredible. They were completely dedicated to making the experience as smooth and just exciting and fun as it could be. They were all just so excited we were there, gushing with us about Star Wars. It was great.
So when it starts, first of all, how long of a window do you have to walk through the Falcon? Because based on your pictures and what I saw on Twitter, it didn't look like they were rushing you through, and it looked like you actually were able to take some time with it.
Yeah, so we had about 8 to 10 minutes, and I felt like that was a really long time considering how the Falcon was set up. So it was kind of that, if you've seen the video with Donald Glover kind of showing you around the Falcon, it's that first part where you're in like the little kitchenette area and where they sit around the table to eat meals and like play card games. I assume sabacc, but that's not what the game is called in the store. But there's that, and then there's a hallway into the cockpit, and I just think the staff was so gracious with their time, and they were showing us everything, and taking pictures for us and like telling us, okay, scoot a little bit more to the left. The lighting's better. So, I mean, that was great.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically the Jarek table and the kind of the entryway and then the hallway to the cockpit. That's all there is to it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Did it have all of Lando's capes?
Excuse me?
Did it have all of Lando's capes in his little cape room?
Unfortunately, it didn't. I was looking forward to that. I assume you also read Last Shot, and I was really hoping we'd get the cape closet in that experience. But it wasn't there, but it's okay.
But still, the rest of it looks pretty amazing. It looks like it was a great time.
When you first walk in, do they just open like a regular door and all of a sudden you're there? How do you first walk into the Falcon?
So, you're both familiar with kind of like prefabricated houses. So it's kind of like the door to the front of one of those. And as soon as you open it, you walk up into the first little hallway and you're immediately in the Falcon. Like, it's the hallway. It's very clean, which is just so weird because you're so used to seeing Han's version of the Falcon.
Poor Han. He gets a bad rap ever since we saw how shiny and new this thing can be.
It's true. You're like, wow, it's so clean and nice looking. But I mean, as soon as the door opens, you're there. Like you're in the Falcon. You're like, what? This is crazy.
Yeah, that's really amazing. The pictures look great and like really do kind of help bring it home. What was the cockpit like?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, so you can't touch any buttons. It's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yes, you cannot touch any buttons. I really, really wanted to go into hyperdrive, but no touching buttons.
They have to put those binders on me. That's right. Otherwise, I'll just be reaching for everything, I think.
Right?
They send you to Rathars if that happens.
I'm a rule follower. So
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I did not push any buttons, but we did. They said, oh, please sit down. We'll take pictures for you. We asked questions about what was on the panel and, different things like that. And the two staff members there were just completely entertaining us and saying, oh, pose this way. You look so great. It was fun.
Oh,
was Daniel one of the people?
Yes, Daniel Kennedy.
Yep. I thought so. He's a good guy.
He is so great.
So when you're in the cockpit, does it laugh? Does it make sound effects, or is it basically just wonderful Falcon furniture?
It's Falcon furniture, and the lights on the control panel they're glowing, and they turn on and off, and that's a really cool feeling because you kind of feel like you're on the Falcon and it's going. It's not like it's on autopilot or something.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
And that's a really cool feeling, but. Yeah,
when you were in it, did it feel like you were on an actual replica from the film, or did it feel like it was just some sort of a prop made for you to walk through it at Atlanta Braves Park? Because the pictures, I'm sure, make it look like it's the real deal.
Yeah.
No, you feel like you're on the ship. It's completely enclosed, so you can't see outside. You don't feel like you're anywhere else. And I can only describe it as just really magical. Felt like I really was transported on the Falcon somewhere else. It was so fun.
Well, that's great. That is great. Well, Megan, thank you so much for sharing that. And if those of you listening have not seen it on the website, she did a nice review and added some photos of the adventure and experience. And it was just great stuff. So I believe the next places it's going are out west. I'm hopeful that it will be on either coast or, more importantly, in Chicago, because that's near me. And that's what I want. I want to see this thing. It's amazing. So thank you so much for that. Let's go ahead and take a break. And then when we come back, Tom's going to bring us the latest Star Wars news. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
Celebrate the release of Solo, a Star Wars story in style by collecting your favorite characters and moments in Star Wars Card Trader by Topps. Collect and trade with friends across the galaxy. Download free now. Harry's razors is the thing I'm going to use if I want a close, comfortable shave. They are amazing, they're convenient, and they're affordable. That's really all true. I mean, as I've said many times, I only endorse things that I believe in, that I use, and Harry's is the real deal. What I love the most about shaving with Harry's is that they have this close shave. It's smooth, it's comfortable. The glide of the blade on my face just works out beautifully. And Harry stands behind the quality of their blades, as you know, but they also know that switching razors isn't an easy decision. So this is a great thing. They've created a trial offer, and you just claim it by going to harrys.com/CWK family. Harry's founders are, of course, fed up with overpaying for expensive razors with unnecessary features. They know a great shave comes down to great blades made with sharp, durable steel that lasts. And that's why they bought a factory that's been making some of the highest quality blades in the world for over 95 years. By selling directly to you over the internet, Harry's can offer their blades at a price much lower than a leading brand, just $2 per blade compared to $4 or more. The quality guarantee is here. If you don't love your shave, let Harry's know, and within 30 days, they're going to give you a full refund. Get a $13 value trial set that comes with everything you need for a close, comfortable shave. A weighted ergonomic handle, 5-blade razor with a lubricating strip and trimmer blade, rich lathering shave gel, and a travel blade cover. Listeners of my show can redeem their trial set at harrys.com/CWK family. Make sure you go to harrys.com/CWK family to redeem your offer and let them know I sent you to help support the show. It's time for our news segment, and Tom Gross returns to tell us what's going on in the world of Star Wars. Tom, take it away.
Well, the time has come to punch it, Chewie. The world premiere of Solo: A Star Wars Story is Thursday, May 10th, and you can catch the red carpet show live from Los Angeles with the Star Wars show's Andy Gutierrez and Anthony Carboni with live interviews with the stars and creators of Solo. It all begins Thursday, May 10th at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, right there on StarWars.com.
So obviously this is exciting news, and it's somewhat surprising because we were always told that Cannes in France was going to be where Solo was going to be shown, and it is still going to be shown, but this is even before that, and I'm not sure if it's because they wanted to get a head start to have it on American soil first, because that's where the biggest Star Wars market is, and the UK is the second biggest market. So this is very exciting. I absolutely love these live streams too. And they're as much a part of the hype for the show, the new films, as anything that we get to experience. So it's always fun to see Andy and Anthony talking with everybody, and just kind of the excitement and the hype. It's really wonderful to watch online. What do the two of you think of these live streams? Have you seen them for any of the last 3 films that they've done?
So I've been to the live streams that they have been on. Boots is great to watch, and Anthony is really good, and David W. Collins does a great job hosting, and I like seeing everybody kind of in their casual sort of attire, and as they settle in and sort of get excited and share it with the fans, and especially for the action. Like, I think they get excited when they see, so many people like just for them, and like all like they sort of feel the energy that I'm sure these premieres must be just bursting with energy. So yeah, they're fun to watch.
Meghan, what about you?
I love watching Andy and Anthony. They're so fun. And I have loved in the past watching the live streams with little kids. They just get so excited, and it's fun to watch. And I'm really eager to watch this premiere as well.
Tom, what about you? I mean, for me personally, I like seeing, like, for the last one they had the giant ATM-6, and then for Rogue One they had an X-wing, and I just love seeing all those kind of things.
Yeah, the sets and the pieces they have there are always fun. I'm trying to remember. Well, I guess first before I ask the question, another thing about this one is, boy, that seems like an early time for this to start, because really in Central Time that's 3:00, right? It's 5 p.m. Pacific is 3:00 our time.
It's the other way around.
It's the other way around. Oh,
yeah.
Good. Then I was just all mixed up. The other thing I was going to say, this one seems
messed up. Yeah,
I am. Yeah, I need to go 88. I was going to say, does this seem a little early from the release of the movie? I mean, we're like 2.5 weeks out from the film. Is that I forget, release to release.
You're exactly right. Typically, these premieres have been airing the Saturdays before the week that the show comes out. So, for example, The Last Jedi premiere was on a Saturday, and then the next week on Thursday was when they did the early shows, and then that Friday was the release. So typically it's about 6 or 7 days before, but this is over 2 weeks away. And I'm not really sure why that is.
Oh, okay.
Other than trying to get ahead of Canon. I think because of the shifts in the production schedule and different directors, I think they just sort of have had a different way of having to kind of pace and structure the marketing of this film. And this is just my personal opinion. I have no insight information into that per se, but that's the only thing I can think of. I mean, I hope that more will come out about this, but I don't know. It is definitely earlier. And the only challenge for this is that there is an embargo. You've probably seen online. There's an embargo for social media that ends after the premiere airs. So really, in a couple of days, it's conceivable that something could really be spoiled because there will be people out there that have seen it already over 2 weeks before it comes out. So we'll have to hide.
We'll have to mute a lot.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to our next story. Speaking of early releases, this week, composer John Powell released the track list for the upcoming solo A Star Wars Story on his Facebook page. While I will not name any of the titles of the tracks, there are 20 tracks on the album, and one track is listed as composed and conducted by John Williams. The soundtrack will be released on the same day the film opens to the public on May 25th. Pre-order the solo Star Wars Story musical scores are available now. You know, I did, as I felt like it was my responsibility to check the list and look it over. Now, I did not memorize it or anything like that, but as I read it, I did kind of hold my breath, expecting that Phantom Menace kind of surprise. The reason I looked at it is I thought, I just want to make sure it was authentic. It just seems like a strange post to put out there. Again, so far, I mean, we're close to the film. I mean, we've been waiting a long time, and but we're still 2.5 weeks out. So I was like, well, just to double check the authenticity of this, and went to the Facebook post by John Powell. And indeed, it's there. It looks to be an image of the back of what would be the CD case. It has the Falcon over a cloudy, it's kind of a pink sunset-y kind of thing. And then the track list is going up and down. So yeah.
Not
so
completely unusual, though, for them to have a track list before. They did this a similar time frame for The Last Jedi, too.
Yeah, maybe being a what are they called? The 3 and 3, without being the trilogies, they're a little looser on things like that. I don't know. It doesn't seem like they would be, but definitely surprising news. Hey, StarWars.com announced this week that Lucasfilm Publishing will be releasing a new series of books about the travels of one of our favorite spacecraft in Star Wars galaxy in Flight of the Falcon. Now, I'm not going to say that this puts a feather in the cap of a Coffee with Kenobi co-founder Corey Clubb's argument that the Falcon could be considered a beloved character, Dan, but the series will span a large time frame of stories from just before the time of the solo film through the original series up to the newest trilogy of Star Wars movies. The series will include novels and comics bringing the reader new adventures, including untold stories of Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, Lando, and don't forget Hondo. Every book will include a map. I love this part. Every book will include a map that traces the flight path of the Falcon and help explain the time and place of each adventure. At least one of the stories will be in a choose-your-own-adventure style, which will be difficult, I'm sure, to fit into canon. And StarWars.com reports that even though the series will be written for readers in the ages of 8 to 13, these stories will be enjoyed by everyone.
I love this. This is kind of unique because they're, instead of a journey to The Force Awakens, a journey to, but when this is coming out after or close to it, which is a new thing. Anything that has the Falcon is great. I have the first, by Kevin Scott, the first Choose Your Own Adventure Han Solo and Chewbacca one. Disney sent it to me a couple weeks ago. And my son and I have been reading it, and it's really cool. The one that I have, it takes place where Han is getting ready to dump the cargo and get to raise Jabba's ire, and of course we all know that scene very, very well. But the Falcon, one thing I'm for sure of on this story is that you could not wait. You were so proud of yourself to bring up that argument that the Falcon is a character. Am I right?
When I saw the title, yeah.
The Last Jedi novelization, Jason Fry did a really good job of personifying lots of things that had previously not really been a character.
Of course. Well, Jason Fry's awesome, and he also is maybe the biggest Falcon fan I know. I mean, we're all pretty high up there, but he loves it too. So that does carry some weight, but it's not sentient. It's not sentient. It's not a character. It's my favorite, maybe my favorite thing in Star Wars, perhaps besides Darth Vader, but it's not a character.
Yeah, I'm excited for these. These sound like a lot of fun. I like the fact that they are multi-genre. You've got the Choose Your Adventure, you've got regular novels, you've got, looks like there'll be comics, maybe graphic novels that go along with this, all following the same type of idea. And I love the idea. You know, one thing when I talk to my children about Star Wars, and we kind of jump around in time and watch Rogue One, and then watch original, and then watch Phantom Menace, and then jump to Rey's stories, they kind of are like, when does this happen? I love that they're going to include this map, first of all, that puts the galaxy in place, but then also have explanation of time and place of these stories, since they will thread through much of the Star Wars timeline.
Yeah, I think it's great that they are trying to help with the way they're coming out with these stories, jumping all over the place. Even the Forces of Destiny that we were talking about, like, you know, there's prequel era, there's sequel era, there's original trilogy, bouncing all around. And yeah, like sometimes my kids say the exact same thing to me. When was this one, Dad? Is this before or after episode 6? And, you know, so it's nice to have that map. And I used to read some of the old expanded universe, but it was always nice when they had those sort of flow charts in the front, like sort of spacing out roughly when everything was, even though they didn't always line up appropriately or tie in together exactly. So it's good that they're doing that.
I love maps. It's going to be so great.
Did any of you think of Indiana Jones when Tom was describing this? Because, I mean, you know, how could you not think of that?
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be so wonderful. I love maps in books. It makes me really excited if there's a digital version. Maybe one day, maybe we'd be clicking on the maps and seeing different pictures. That would be great.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that idea.
Me too.
Well, I do love that idea. Yeah, I love maps too. So, and when you can make them interactive like that, I'm sold. Well, you know what? I've got one bonus story, just a kind of fun bonus story, and here it is. When Kendall and Ross Robbins of Ogden, Utah, learned that they were having twins, and one would be a boy and one would be a girl, and the birth could be induced on May the 4th, they knew these two children would have special names. Well, middle names, that is. So just after noon on May the 4th, 2018, Rowan, Luke, and Kai Leia were born. Well, of course, mother and children are doing fine, and they will go home to a Star Wars-themed nursery.
Aww.
How sweet is that? I mean, wouldn't it be great? I mean, just think about that. They're actually born on May the 4th. Why wasn't that my birthday? What a ripoff. Thanks, Mom and Dad. That's so, I think that's wonderful. And I love that it's middle names too, because you can still have that there, but it doesn't have to be all about that either.
Mm-hmm. I love this story. My coworker, I have to share this. His daughter was born on Friday as well, on May the 4th. And he left the office Thursday, like, enraptured. He was just so excited. He was like, my daughter's going to be born on Star Wars Day, and she's going to grow up with all these great characters. I'm just so excited. It was adorable.
Thank you so much, as always, for bringing us the latest Star Wars news.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So let's go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, I'll share a few reflections and some of your MP3s on 5 years of Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Coffee with Kenobi.
Star Wars Card Trader by Topps, your go-to source for the latest solo, a Star Wars story content, new daily card releases, original artwork, movie relics, and more. Download free now in the App Store, Google Play, or Amazon. One Nation Coffee is the official brew of Coffee with Kenobi. Four lifelong friends had this idea that grew into some of the best coffee you will ever have. It smells amazing and tastes even better. Check out www.onenationcoffee.com to get your morning start off the right way. Be sure to go to www.onenationcoffee.com to order the official brew of Coffee with Kenobi. 5 years of Coffee with Kenobi. It seems like so long ago that we started this show in Corey's office, the two of us sitting there, and you've heard the story a few times, but for some of our newer listeners, you may not be aware. But when we started this show, I was commuting, about 45-minute commute to my teaching job. I used to work in insurance, and it just wasn't for me. It wasn't the right fit. So I went back to school at night to get a teaching degree to be a high school English teacher. And during my commutes, I would listen to podcasts. Of course, I listened to the Force Cast the most because I was a huge Star Wars fan. And by the way, still am. Sounds funny to say that. And I would also listen to Tony Kornheiser's show and lots of things. I was just so drawn to the medium, and the IndieCast is really what put it over the top for me. I just love listening to Ed Delista talk about the IndieCast. So I started writing emails to him. And the first time he read my email on the show, I thought I won the lottery. I was so happy hearing him say my name in his Australian accent and share my thoughts. And I knew that people who liked Indiana Jones were going to hear what I had to say. That just changed something in me. I just felt very excited. This notion of having a voice in fandom, having a voice in the community, and contributing to the overall conversation, it stuck with me. And then I met Corey. I met, of course, my future wife, Deanna, and her nephew was Corey. And she had told me one day, hey, Corey is this cool guy. I think you'd get along with him well. He's got all this Superman stuff in his office, and he likes comic books and things like that. You'd probably have a lot in common. So we did. We met. We hung out a few times at family stuff. And then we went and we had coffee together. And we were talking about all this stuff. And I said, listen, we should be recording stuff like this. Like, this is fun. I think people would like to listen to it. I would like to listen to it. And I think we should do a show together. And he said, oh, really? I think I would like to do that too. And that was it. And then we kept trying to figure out what we want our topic to be, because there's a lot that goes into a podcast besides just the topic, but it's the style, it's the approach, how often it's going to be released. Are you going to put in music? Is it going to be scripted? What are you going to do? There's just a lot of nuance that goes into a podcast. But it always kept coming back to Star Wars. And conversely, I thought, hey, you know what? In my British literature classes, in my classes at high school, we really analyze things in unique ways. And I think we can take that critical lens and use it towards our podcast. And the impetus for Coffee with Kenobi was born. But now we had to come up with a name. And that was a tricky part for me. And we banded about a few. I wrote down some ideas. And then Corey one day texted me. And I remember getting this text in the school parking lot, just when I got in my car before I was going to drive home. And he said, Coffee with Kenobi. And that just hit me. I thought, yes, that is it. That is perfect. That's the essence. I want it to be a coffee chat atmosphere where you're talking about Star Wars. And then the logo process actually took about as long as recording our first show. We kept going back and forth. And he would give me these amazing ideas and images. And I'd say, well, what about we tweak this? What about we do that? And he'd say, I did that, but I think I like this better. And it was just a very collaborative process. I knew I was onto something with Corey because we just worked so well together. And I've always appreciated Corey and what he has brought to our show. Obviously, it was hard for me when he first left, but it's been a year now, and things have gone great. And now it took a while for me to find my voice without him because he's been so instrumental in this. I mean, he was just on the last show number 121. It's been amazing. If you'd have told me 5 years ago that I was about to give the announcement I'm giving now, I would have never believed it. I would have hoped it. I would have believed it was possible. But that it was actually a reality, that's something else, as Han Solo would say. I'm going to the solo premiere. I'm going to the red carpet solo premiere. I am so excited about this. I've known about it for a couple of weeks. And I can't even tell you, friends, what it did to me. When I got the invite, my heart was just pounding in my chest. And I told my wife right away, and she said, what is it? What's going on? And I told her, and she said, oh my gosh, I'm really happy for you. That is amazing. And see these stars and hopefully Ron Howard and just be in that atmosphere, which of course will be streaming live on StarWars.com. It means the world to me. And I just don't believe it would have happened without your support, without you listening to the show, without your downloads, without your iTunes reviews, without Twitter, without Facebook, and just being a part of the conversation, as generous as you've all been when I've seen you at celebrations and other conventions, it's just been wonderful. And I hope that you feel like you're coming along for the ride with me, because we are in this together. We are a community. We are a fandom that supports and builds each other up. So here's what you can expect from Coffee with Kenobi in the solo premiere. We're going to do a lot of Facebook Live stuff on our Coffee with Kenobi Facebook page. I'll be doing some Insta story and Instagram and Twitter posts, of course. And I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff on our Coffee with Kenobi Patreon page and on our Coffee with Kenobi lens. It's going to be amazing. I'm going to get a lot of audio. We're going to do some more stuff with video. I'm really looking forward to covering that on the show. And I'm also going to the press conference and the solo after party. I think we're going to get some really great stories and experiences that I'm going to be able to share with you on the show in the near future. There are, of course, a lot of embargoes for when you can release and talk about certain things. And it is going to be kind of dicey because after the premiere on Thursday the 10th, the social media embargo is lifted and people can actually talk about Solo a little bit on social media. So be careful out there. There are going to be some spoilers. Of course, on Coffee with Kenobi, you're still going to get spoiler-free coverage. I'm not going to give away anything at all. No worries there. I'm just excited to be a part of that experience and to share that with each and every one of you. So here are two MP3s. One is from Craig Dickinson, who's been a longtime friend of the show, really since the beginning, and he's done Rebels Reconnaissance for us, which is the written reviews we have on Coffee with Kenobi. Here's Craig's MP3.
Hey, Dan and Corey, it's Craig Dickinson. Congratulations on 5 years. What an incredible accomplishment. And it's fun for me just to look back and say, I remember when these guys just started out and were just a burgeoning little podcast, and now Coffee with Kenobi has just become this media juggernaut through hard work, really, and just being great guys who've given voice to a large segment of fandom. And I wish you guys all the best. And again, congratulations.
Thank you so much for that, Craig. I really appreciate it. Really, really do. And here's a little private joke that Craig and I have had since we probably started talking around when the show first started. I don't know how the word burgeoning came up the first time. It was in the Rebels reactions we probably did together. And because he was on the very first one for the very first show. And of when we did our Rebels reactions before Aaron came in and took over. And man, has he been awesome for this as well. Really, I mean, how could I not mention Legends Library and Comics with Kenobi and Lattes with Leia and Rebels reactions and Jeff and Matt and Randy and Luke and Drea and Amy and Aaron. They've been so instrumental to helping make Coffee with Kenobi a family network. And I just am very, very appreciative. But again, Craig, thank you so much. The burgeoning thing, I manage every time I write an article for Stars.com to put the word burgeoning in there. I like the word. I think it's an important, effective word, but it's become sort of a joke between Craig and I. And if you listen to the MP3 again, you'll hear that word. So thank you again, Craig. The next MP3 I'm going to share with you is from Ryan Donahoe, who's one of the hosts, of course, of the Forcecast.
Dan Z, what's up, man? It's Ryan Donahoe from the Forcecast. Just wanted to wish you a happy 5-year anniversary on your show, Coffee with Kenobi. 5 years, man, that's a long time. There are very few people that have been doing it longer than Daniel and I, and you are one of them. You've always been an inspiration to us, a great guy who is informative, who has a fun show, who provides just awesome, positive Star Wars goodness every week. And I know your listeners appreciate it. The community appreciates it. You are a pillar of the community, and I want to say congratulations on 5 years. Looking forward to the next 5 years. I'm sure Coffee with Kenobi is going to do even greater things in the next 5 years. And best of luck in the future, my friend. And thank you for doing all that you've done the last 5 years.
Thank you again for that, Ryan. That really is cool. A lot of great support, a lot of great memories, and most importantly, a lot of great friendships and amazing conversations. I want to thank each of you so much for making my 5 years of Coffee with Kenobi so special. And I have no plans of slowing down. In fact, full speed ahead, baby. This has been such a blast. And I can't wait to see and share with you the next 5 years of this amazing Star Wars universe that we have as a fandom. Such a joy, such a blessing. Let's go ahead and take our last break. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
listening to Coffee with Kenobi. You are the podcast you're looking for. This is...
Before we close out the show, I want to thank our CWK sponsors, the Star Wars Card Trader from Topps, One Nation Coffee, and Harry's Razors. Please support them the way they support our podcast. Remember to listen to new and archive shows of Coffee with Kenobi wherever you listen to podcasts, including iTunes, Podcast Addict, Stitcher, Spreaker, Overcast, Blog Talk Radio, Player FM, and our website www.coffeewithkenobi.com, or wherever you enjoy listening to your favorite shows. And if you listen to the show through iTunes, please leave us a review. We are also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, and Tumblr, and we'd love for you to check us out there. Be sure to listen to our CWK family of shows too, including Legends Library, Rebels Reactions, Comics with Kenobi, and Lattes with Leia. Please leave a review for each of their shows as well, as they all have their own iTunes feeds, so you can subscribe to each of their shows individually. Thanks to BJ Smith and Meghan Camp for joining us today. Where can listeners find each of you if they want to ask you a question or just say hello?
Listeners can find me at Meghan Ashley, so MEGHANASHLEE on Twitter, and Meghan Camper, MEGHANCAMPER on Instagram. Feel free to DM me, ask me any questions. Would love to chat with you.
And I'm at my Twitter and Instagram, Smith MD, all together as one word. And happy to just kids or sports medicine topics or whatever floats your boat.
Sounds great. Now I'll have links to both of those things in the show notes, of course. And I want to thank each and every one of you for listening to and supporting Coffee with Kenobi and for contributing to Star Wars Conversation. Definitely be on the lookout for my coverage of the solo premiere. We'll have footage on our Facebook Live, on Insta Story, on the Patreon Lens, and all kinds of great stuff, and of course on Twitter. Very, very excited to bring you that. So of course we'll be back next week with stories from the solo premiere and lots more Star Wars conversation. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars-related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
There's no one here.